Hey everyone, it's Kyle. This is my farewell to Bleach. If you have not finished the manga, then I would highly recommend skipping this episode, unless you don't care about spoilers, or you don't think you're ever going to read the manga or watch the anime. But for everyone else, I hope you guys enjoy.
My name is Ichigo Kurosaki. I'm 15 years old. For as long as I can remember, I've been able to see the souls of the dearly departed.
I'm a soul reaper. My name is Rukia. The Hollows were once souls of human beings, no different from anyone else.
Time to eat your soul!
We stand in awe before that which cannot be seen.
Bleach was the first anime I ever watched. I was 13 years old and had just started staying up late to watch whatever was on Adult Swim. It was pure luck that I happened to come across the very first episode of Bleach, and I was immediately blown away. I had never seen anything like it. I loved it so much that I would watch every episode twice a night, once when it would first air, and again when it ran later that night. And of course, this was before I even knew what anime was, or that watching it online was even a possibility. I was obsessed. I studied every aspect of the show. I memorized all the captains and lieutenants, their abilities, Hado, Kido, everything. It was the epitome of cool. Everything about it was so incredibly stylish. Not just the fashion itself, which was incredible, but the action as well. Bleach still has some of the greatest fight scenes in any shonen anime. But seeing mature action and legitimately cool characters like that in what I thought was just a cartoon at 13 years old, it's no surprise I loved it as much as I did. But I grew older and I found other anime, my tastes evolved, but Bleach was always there. It was part of my life. I would watch countless AMVs, all set to Linkin Park's Breaking the Habit because that's the only song AMVs were set to in 2006. I would have my mom drive to obscure theaters to watch Bleach movies alone, telling her that Jeremy really wanted to see Kung Fu Panda 3, and I don't know why it's only playing in one location that's 30 minutes away. And of course, Bleach is the reason I originally started obsessively exercising. I wanted to be like these characters who I considered my heroes. Nostalgia aside, what happened? Why was a manga that was once part of the big three gradually becoming so irrelevant? After some time, not only did I realize that Bleach wasn't that good, but it was getting worse. Now that doesn't mean I ever stopped enjoying it. I simply stopped caring about it like I used to. Well, the main issue is that Kubo would continue to reuse ideas from most of the arc structures following the Soul Society arc. That problem alone, which is essentially synonymous with being a bad writer, is detrimental for a long-running shonen. You can't have entire arcs with practically identical scenarios. This led to steady decline in viewership until we eventually get to the final Aizen fight. But as soon as the final, and at this point, only villain in Bleach was defeated, anything afterward would feel unnecessary. And it was. The Fullbring arc began almost as suddenly as the anime was cancelled, and Bleach was suddenly at the bottom of Shonen Jump rankings. Kubo, after deleting his Twitter account, after being fed up with editors who he never got along with from the start, and after seeing nothing but criticism, stopped caring. Shonen Jump notified Kubo that he would have to wrap up Bleach for good in a mere 3 chapters. The final chapter of Bleach was not the ending Kubo wanted. It was the ending that was most suitable for the circumstance he found himself in. With that being said, let's finally get into my opinion on the final chapter of Bleach. I think the last chapter had 2 main problems. The first is simply the amount of unanswered questions, but it's understandable. I knew that it wouldn't be remotely possible for Kubo to wrap up each detail regarding hundreds of characters within Bleach in 3 chapters. Still, I'd like to know if Urahara is alive, and literally anything about the Soul King. And also, since there were so many unanswered questions, it's not a surprise that so few things actually made sense. This all goes back to the fact that Kubo was forced to end the manga. I doubt that if Kubo had the authority to end Bleach at his own discretion, that he would have deliberately chose to leave so many questions unanswered. The second problem I had is, of course, about the final relationships. When I saw Ichigo with Orihime and Rukia with Renji, my heart broke. Now, shipping is not something I typically do. Even using the term makes me cringe sometimes. But all I ever wanted to see is Ichigo and Rukia together. Their relationship was the catalyst for the entire series. The entire plot was fueled by their interactions. Ichigo left everything behind and went into another world without knowing anything, just to save Rukia. And Rukia was always there for Ichigo when he was at his absolute lowest to help him regain his courage. She even lived in his closet. I mean, Rukia means light. She was the ray of light for Ichigo. She's the white moon while he's the black sun. The symbolism throughout the entire show is about them. They just had such good chemistry together. Even in the last chapter, Rukia and Ichigo had a better dynamic between the two of them than their respective partners. I don't even think Renji had any dialogue, and Orihime just said generic housewife lines. It wasn't so much that I thought Rukia and Ichigo had to be together, although I'd be lying if I said I didn't want them to be. But if Bleach, according to Kubo, was never supposed to be about romance, then don't make the conclusion the most stereotypical romantic comedy end. At least give me a chapter in between the second to last and final that has Ichigo and Rukia having a talk about how they can't be together for literally any reason. Without explanation, I can't comprehend why any of these characters would get together, especially Renji and Rukia. The only instance of what someone might interpret as romance is the Renji and Rukia flashback, but the sole purpose of that flashback was intended to make Renji a relevant character so he'd have a reason to eventually join the group and nothing more. I've never disagreed with an ending so much. Honestly, you know what I would have liked for the actual ending? Let's say Ichigo defeats Aizen, we have that beautiful moment between Ichigo and Rukia where she's slowly fading away as Ichigo is losing his powers, and then just cut to an epilogue. Then from this first-person perspective, we would see first a pair of feet and then a pair of hands fade into existence, and that person would look up and they would see all the squad captains and lieutenants in that huge hall, and Rukia would be standing in front of who we now recognize as a much older Ichigo, maybe several years older than his father. And maybe he'd be wearing a captain's robe for a Squad 14 or some new division of substitute Soul Reapers. And of course, Rukia would say something like, "Welcome back, Ichigo." But that is far more than enough delusional rambling. I didn't intend for you to listen to my fan fiction. To wrap things up, I will never forget the way Bleach made me feel the first time I saw Rukia put on that red glove and punch Ichigo's soul out of his body, or that time Ichigo stuck his Zanpakuto into the ground just so he could take out 3 lieutenants barehanded, or when Ichigo shouted Bankai for the first time. Bleach will always be the most important anime to me. It made me who I am.